the Gilgo Beach murders. Suspect Rex Heuermann set to appear in court today. Here's former NYPD Commissioner John Miller speaking to CNN about the suspicious details surrounding Heuermann's home.
We've seen serial killers who have created operating environments in their home because it offers control and privacy. In this case, they don't know this, but why they suspect this is a strong possibility is two core reasons. Number one, tracking the victim's cell phones. They have the 4 cases he's a suspect in, he's charged in 3. But in 3 of those 4 cases, their cell phones seem to track from where they started out right to the Massapequa Park area of his home, and then they go dark. The other thing is, in all 4 of those cases, those were times when his wife and children were out of town, away from the house. Why do something in your own house where you're going to be creating evidence? Because it's the one place you have plenty of time to clean up that evidence. It's the place where what they call the murder kit, the things you're going to need to tie somebody up or do the rest of the things that are alleged in this case, are readily available to you. It's where a victim screaming, unlike a hotel room at 1:30 in the morning where people are going to hear that, can be muffled. And it's a place where, more important than all of that, you as the killer feel you are in control of the environment and the victim is not. So do they have a piece of physical evidence that ties any of these victims to his home yet? The answer is no, but they've removed a lot of things that they're going to be testing to see if they can tie either the victim's presence there or evidence of the victim at that location. We have seen in the history of serial killer cases an innate ability to compartmentalize their normal lives, family lives, job lives, and then they're usually extraordinarily complex lives where they operate in a hidden identity, doing these things in a way to avoid detection. This case is like a lot of those.
Will we see more charges announced today? Maybe, who knows? Right now, I want to take you to Suffolk County, New York, where we find Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson standing by live outside of the courthouse where all the action is going to be happening this afternoon. Matt, good to see you again this morning. Give us kind of a preview of what we can expect to happen when Rex Heuermann is brought back into court today.
Julie, good morning to you. And that's the big question, right? With all of these charges pending, this investigation still open, will there be more charges announced today? Will we also see his wife, who has recently filed for divorce, and other family members present here at this courthouse here behind me? What we do know is that this is one of the largest true crime cases in the country, if not internationally. Take a look at some of our cameras that are around here right now. This is growing in size of the media presence as Justin, our photojournalist, is panning around the front of the courthouse. This is both local and national news. There is no escaping this story here. It is on every channel, and this is why. Just take a look. And this is 5 hours away from this hearing when suspected Long Island serial killer Rex Heuermann will be in court. This is the first court appearance since he pleaded not guilty to the charges last month. Take a look. We were at his home yesterday where there is less of a police presence, but there is still a mood of tenseness in the air there. And this is over at Massapequa home where investigators dug into the backyard. They lifted the decking in the back of the home. They went inside of his basement and they removed several items, including what we know is a life-size doll and also more than 200 guns from behind a locked door. And we can also tell you again, he faces 3 charges: first-degree murder and also 3 charges second-degree murder. But again, with this investigation wrapping up at the house, we don't have any idea of all the other evidence that was collected and those other charges still pending. Remember that there was 11 victims total that were found in that Gilgo Beach area. Our cameras were also there yesterday. Everyone telling us that they are still in shock. They thought that this was a case that was actually going to go unsolved, Julie. Back out here live in front of the Suffolk County Courthouse, we're panning in. Justin, you can see the doors have opened here, but there was a long line line of people waiting to get inside. It is going to be first come, first served seating in 5 hours from now. People are already lining up, waiting to get a seat and hoping to see 6'4" Heuermann in that courtroom. How will he be behaving? How will he be acting? Will he say anything? Because we know, again, that he's on suicide watch after his arrest. He was in tears. Out in front of our cameras here, it's also set up with the media with these microphones in place just in case there's a big announcement, which we'll bring to you. And there is impromptu interviews, Julie.
Certainly, Matt. You know, speaking of the interviews, members of the community have to be just so sickened and stunned with these allegations. What is the sentiment now after they've had a little bit of time to digest it? And of course, everything kind of comes back to the surface on a day like today where the accused is coming back in court and all of the world of true crime is abuzz about it.
Yeah, the response is they feel for the family members that say that they didn't know anything. They wonder how someone, a monster like this, if he is actually the culprit here, could be living in plain sight. And they wonder if there's going to be more charges today.
Matt Johnson, thank you so much for that update. We'll look forward to your reporting throughout the day here on Court TV Live. Matt Johnson in Suffolk County, again, 2 p.m. Eastern time. And because our cameras aren't allowed in, we will all be waiting with bated breath to hear what Matt tells us after he comes out of that hearing. Right now, I want to welcome a very special guest on the program. She is a renowned psychotherapist. She's an author. She also hosts the podcast Talking Live and Bite Size. We're so pleased to have Dr. Robbie Ludwig with us this morning. Good morning, Dr. Robbie. Oh,
good morning.
Gosh, I wish we could talk about something more pleasant than serial killers. But you know, who better than you to consult when we're looking at this case and have so many questions about this guy. Rex Heuermann. He's cloaked in the presumption of innocence, we know, but the allegations are as bad as they come in criminal court. Tell me, Dr. Robbie, if you were given the task of evaluating him, what would you be asking him and why, please?
I might be asking him about the excitement component about his behavior. This would be assuming that he would be admitting to the crimes that he did, because I think that's what's being missed. And this is what happens with a lot of serial killers. Clearly, there's antisocial personality disorder, which we often refer to in the news as psychopathy or sociopathy. And there is a sexual paraphilia, which I find also is closely connected to many of these serial killings, that there's a sexual component and there's an excitement about creating fear, or they're operating in sync with the fantasy that they have, which is why they have these signatures so closely affiliated with many of their killings.
I'm so glad you said that, Dr. Rob, because that was one of the most revolting details that came out of this when we got to see his Google searches on his computer. And the things that he searched for dealt with children and sickening, abusive images of children and also women. And so, you know, of course, our minds go, oh, okay, is this person also someone who likes little kids? Or is that a component that's kind of goes along with the behavior of a serial killer? Can you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, well, I think that, you know, if you look deeply into their psyche, it's a lot about how their sexual fantasy is integrated with the murders. So there are certain things that are sexually orgasmic to them or exciting, and they try to recreate that in real life. And there lies the problem. It's one thing to have a sexual fantasy. It's one thing to, you know, kind of enjoy, let's say, a colorful sexual life, but they cross the line. So it's this very primal rage that comes through. And then there's an addictive compulsion about it. So once they engage in this kind of killing, they might go quiet for a while, but then they need their next hit. And then it becomes more frequent. And the fact that they were there was dismemberment that was a part of this killing, I think all goes to the fantasies that were floating around in his mind. And of course there's a rage, and of course there's an entitlement, but there's a real pathology and addictiveness. And I think what's also interesting is what your reporter described was, Rex crying and feeling sad and on suicide watch. So the interesting thing about these types of personalities, although they have no empathy and they don't feel on behalf of others, they do feel sorry for themselves.
Oh, that's interesting. So the tears aren't for all those victims. The tears are just for them.
Himself. Oh, God. No.
Wow.
No. It's not for any of the victims.
Yeah.
That was just him.
Yeah.
He feels sorry for himself that he got caught, that he may have to pay for these crimes. And that was something he was never really prepared for.
Yeah, it's really stunning, Dr. Rabi, and I think his family was certainly not prepared for this either. By all accounts, they're cooperating. They are not suspected to have engaged in any criminal conduct. They're just looking for their privacy. Can you speak to the I know you can, and if you would, please, the kind of trauma that they may be going through, maybe right now, as they're maybe headed back to their house to walk the dog or do the different things. They waved at our cameras yesterday when Matt was there watching them, and they're processing this just as we all are.
Yeah, I think we have to look at the family as Rex's family is also victims. They were not involved in this crime. It's possible they thought he was odd, but I would imagine that they were abused by him as well. That he basically chose a family who was powerless, or he rendered them powerless. So they didn't really have a say about what went on with his life or how he conducted himself even. So here you have this family that is now also paying for their husband/father's crime. And there was an article that was heart-wrenching about the wife talking about, my whole home is being dug up. I don't have a place to sleep. My kids don't feel safe. I have a son who is disabled and he's crying because he can't process what's going on around him. So I think it's also important to, say prayers for his family as well, because they're victims too.
Oh, you're right. And that's a great way to say it, Dr. Rabi. Their lives have literally been turned upside down with this news. So many questions unanswered, and we are so grateful for your insight and expertise. Dr. Rabi Ludwig, check out her podcast, and would love to have you back again and again on this one. Thank you so much.